for session number 3 of Build with AI on Google Cloud. This is a joint effort by GDG Seattle, GDG Surrey, GDG Vancouver, and the Bevy. And we're super excited for you to join us, and welcome back if you were with us from the previous sessions. And a few words about the GDG chapters. I'm organizer of GDG Seattle, and we have also Yingqi here today with us. And GDG Seattle has been around for a long time, 2010-ish. I have included some of the photos here that we have a lot of events every year. Typically, we'll have our Dev Fest, we have IO Extended, Cloud Extended, and all kinds of tech events to talk about Google technology. I have included a link here. Please follow us on LinkedIn. And Preeti?
Yep. Hi. Thank you. Thank you, Margaret, for that. Hello, everyone. I'm Preeti. I'm organizer for GDG Surrey chapter. And I'm thrilled to welcome all of you to this amazing community of developers, that is Google Developer Groups. We are all tech enthusiasts. Some of us are beginners. Some of are, already innovating stuff. And we just want to learn about each other, want to learn together, share, and grow together. So that's what we are all about. You see those pictures. We started pretty new. We started last year, and we have been doing okay. We have been doing great, and thanks to experts like Margaret, Noreen, um, they have been supporting us. We have completed around 33 events now, and that's all the team members and efforts of you all joining here, that makes a difference for us too. So thanks for joining.
Great. Thank you, Preeti. And I'm not sure if Santosh is here today. I just want to quickly talk about GDG Vancouver. We have included a link of GDG Vancouver's LinkedIn and also the community, Bevy, also a volunteer interest form. I know the attendees, all of you, some of you are from the US, some of you are from the Vancouver area in Canada, and some of you are actually from outside of the US. So thank you for joining us, and we hope to also see you in our other chapters. And then here is GDG Bevy. I have included a LinkedIn link here. Today's agenda, I'm going to spend about 5 minutes to talk about the study series overview. For those of you who have joined us the last 2 sessions, it's going to be the same short, brief overview, but I know some of you are new to our study series, so I'll go over that again. Then we're going to have 2 talks, and the first one is Deploy Gemma on Vertex AI by Hanis, and then the second one is about AI Agent by Nurain. Then after that, we will have Q&A, answer your questions about the talks, etc. And actually, even though we have a Q&A session at the very end, I think after Hanis' talk, if you want to handle the Q&A for your talk, we will pause as well there. So about the study series overview, last year, GDG Seattle and the GDG Surrey, we collaborated and on 5 or 6 of the study series for the Google Cloud MLE certificate, and it went really well. Basically, we studied the classes on the Cloud Skills Boost. I'll talk about what it is in a minute. And then we have these sessions come together and have speakers talk about relevant topics, kind of relevant to the studying, to help you learn the topics with Google Cloud. And I wrote a blog post here that there are a number of Gen AI learning path on the Cloud Skills Boost, and we are basically covering the beginner one and plus these four. So I have a link to my blog post on Medium, you can read about it. But from this picture, you can also see the topics of these paths, right? The one, two, three, four paths besides the intro to Gen AI. And then here I have included the links to these five generative AI paths. So each session we follow one of the paths, and you can study for that Gen AI path either before the session or after the session. And for those of you who RSVP to our event, you should have been automatically added to our the Cloud Skills Boost. Yeah, Cloud Skills Boost. Once you sign up, you should already have access to the videos, but you do need credits to do the hands-on labs. So that's what I meant by free access, right? Um, so each session we have like two short talks plus the Q&A, and the topics of each session, the talks are somewhat related to these Gen AI paths, but not limited to the topics. We might have additional ones. And then on the Cloud Skills Boost, the learning material are organized by path. So there are courses, and then each path will have multiple courses. And each course has videos, recommended reading, quizzes, and hands-on labs. And then the labs are such that you can launch, because if you want to actually work on Google Cloud, you need to sign up for the account. You'll be charged, right, for the resource you use. But if you use the Cloud Skills Boost, when you actually use the hands-on labs, when you access that Google Cloud, you have a student ID and a password, and you're not actually using your own Google Cloud account, right? And then you have at least 2 weeks to work through these materials. Like I said earlier, you can study before, after this session. And some of you who are new, that you just joined today, which is okay. You should have access to Cloud Skills Boost for these Gen AI paths for a few months. So it's okay, if you don't finish, but it's also okay if you feel free to study ahead. So, access to Cloud Skills Boost. Pretty, could you ask people the question with the
Yeah.
poll? I want to know right now, we have 43 people tuning today right now. I want to know how many of you actually already signed up with Cloud Skills Boost.
I did share the link in the chat. Please, everybody, please take a moment, and if you could just answer the question, then we will be able to help you better.
Yeah. And then will you be able to see the answer of,
Yeah.
okay.
Yep. I'll share with you
Should I
screen.
let you share your screen?
Yeah, that would be okay.
Okay. So I think, hold on just a second, because I think the next one is after this, it's going to be going to Hanis for the talk. I'm going to just stop sharing. You can share your screen and we can see how many people.
I see 20 volts.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
So, okay. Okay. 88% of you. Okay, good. While we're waiting, I'm not gonna try stare at the answer. Could you give them the second question, please, Pretty? I We want to get a sense of like which path you're on now, and for those of you who are already signed up, you should know what I'm talking about, which one of the paths. But for those of you who you haven't even signed up yet, it's okay. You do not have to answer like which path you're on, or you can just pick the first one or something. So yeah,
Right.
if you just joined today, it's okay. And then the second poll, uh,
So
yeah,
if I start the second one, then the first one would stop.
Oh, okay. We will
So
give people some time to fill out the second one. We'll give like a minute. How many people filled in? Let's see. So we have
29.
46 people, only 29 people voted. Okay. So let's see. Then the second one, second vote, nobody has
The
voted
second
yet.
one, I can only start um, when I stop the first one.
Okay. Yeah, you can stop the the first one now, and then let's
Okay.
look at the second one real quick, and then we can move on to the talk. Okay, someone said I use my own GCP account for work for testing. I'll sign up with the Cloud Skills Boost. Yes, you should sign up for the Cloud Skills Boost because it has the courses. It will actually guide you towards which Gen AI path and which class to take, and then which lab you actually will take.
Okay.
So you actually should start the lab inside of the Cloud Skills Boost. Okay, so let's see. 69% of you are on the first one, 21% on the second one, 14% is on the third one. Okay. All right. So I think pretty don't stop the process so that
Mhm.
people can keep voting, but you could you just stop sharing so we can move on to the talk, please? Thank you. And now please welcome Hanis. From Digits and to give a talk on deploy Gemma on Vertex AI. I just want to say a few words about Hanis. Is that he is a GDG, a GDE, a ML GDE like me. So we're from the same community. I've done book reviews for Hanis, and he has come to my class when I was teaching a GI class at UW. He came as a guest lecturer, and we have collaborated on creating short videos, etc. So I'm super excited to have Hanis here to talk about how to deploy Gemma on Vertex AI.
Thank you for having me. It's a really nice venue to bring people together and teach them about machine learning, and I'm super excited to be part of that. So yeah, thank you. Let me share my screen here, and we can get started. Just need to change a few things on my end, and yeah. As Margaret said, my name is Hannes. I'm a machine learning engineer. Um, Currently working at Digits. I've been working in a number of verticals, fintech, that's where I'm working right now, healthcare, human resources, retail, etc. And I've been dabbling in machine learning for over a decade now. So with starting with like the linear regression problems, and these days we do mostly custom transformer developments and things like this. I also had the chance to co-author 3 machine learning publications, starting with like natural language processing, and then recent years I focused on ML ops, and there is a 4th one in the works right now. So I just want to briefly talk about Digits and to just give you a little glimpse of like what you can do with machine learning. And at Digits, we automate accounting for startups, solopreneurs, and small businesses. So if you have like a side hustle, or if you run a company and you're tired of doing the books yourself, or you think that accounting services are too expensive, check us out because we use machine learning left, right, and center to automate this whole process. So this is basically anything we do behind the scenes is like has machine learning in the works. That can be a simple classification model to very complex generation large language models. So then we often ask ourselves the question of like, why should we host our own LLMs? There are many reasons to do that. And a lot of people are familiar with like using Gemini or using OpenAI or Claude, but to do the extra jump from a hosted model, like from like OpenAI, Claude, Gemini, to host your own LLMs, there's always like this burden of entry. And then in the next 10 minutes here, I just want to show you that it's not a gigantic burden of entry, and you can definitely overcome that. And the reasons why you should even consider that, they're multifold. So you could be in a scenario where you handle confidential data. Maybe you want to strengthen some responsibility AI aspects, so you don't want to share the data with third parties. Some projects have like very intense low latency requirements, so you can't do the round trip across the wire to like Gemini and so on. And then other folks are just super interested in like how things work behind the scenes. Like how would a small Gemini deployment look like for you? And if you want to host your own models, you basically need three things. First of all, you need like a large language model. In our case, we use Gemini's little sister or brother, Gemma, and you need a Google Cloud account in our case, and you need to set up Google Vertex. And Google Vertex allows you to run a bunch of machine learning tasks. You can run pipelines, you can deploy machine learning models. In our case, we will focus solely on deploying the machine learning models. So what do you need to deploy your own large language models? So what we use behind the scenes is a tool called VLLM. This is one of the, at the moment, the de facto standard tools to host large language models. And there are other options out there, but this is one of the solutions with the broadest open source support. It derives from an UC Berkeley project, and they had looked into efficient memory management for LLMs and a very efficient way of calculating attention matrices. And this sort of like springboarded into VLLM, and these days they support a lot of recent developments like speculative decoding and structured generation and those types of things. So it's a wonderful platform to host your models on. And in one of their papers, they had this really cool comparison. So if you use like a Hugging Face model out of the box, in this case, it was like an older Llama model, and you get like a certain throughput and requests per minute. It's relatively slow. If you use the Transformer TGI solution from Hugging Face, that already increases by 10x. And then if you deploy the exact same model on the same hardware, but you use like VLLM, then you can even get another 2.5x out of this. So if you want to host your own machine learning models, you basically need three ingredients. You need, as I said, like you need a large language model. In our case, we use Gemma 2 billion parameters. And there is a specific version that allows you to handle instructions. We use a model server. We talked about we're going to use VLLM in this case. And then we need some sort of an infrastructure that allows us to host those deployments. And in this case, we use Vertex AI. If you, let's say, for some reason, you don't have access to Vertex AI, Google Cloud, or so on, you can also host the exact same setup on like Kubernetes or even on a bare bone instance if you want to. So let's treat this here as a little baking recipe. So we have three ingredients. We have our VLLM, we have our Gemma 2, and we have Vertex AI. So if we throw this all together, then basically we have two steps we need to follow for this baking recipe to get through in terms of the ingredients. So we have those three ingredients. That's VLLM, our Vertex, and Gemma. And here are the instructions. Pretty straightforward. First of all, we need to register our model. We need to create an endpoint, and then we need to deploy that model on that given endpoint. So let's take a look at the first step. And don't worry too much about the code. At the end of the presentation, I will show you a link where you can find a blog post about the whole details and where I explain the individual steps, and I link also to a GitHub repo where you can see the code. So there's no need to like, don't worry if not everything is clear here for every line. So first of all, I said we need to register our model. And in Google Vertex, they have this concept of a model registry where like every model that is either brought into the ecosystem of Vertex, what we do here, or every model you train on their platform or that runs through model pipelines, you can push this up to a model registry. In this particular case, we would say we want to upload our model and keep this in that registry. And so then later on, we can pull this out of the registry and deploy this to our given endpoint. And here in this particular case, we need to provide a server container image UI. This is basically the Docker container we need to run our machine learning model, in our case, the Gemini 2. And this is a container where we run the VLLM. So simple, straightforward Python code. You execute this once. Once this is completed, you have your model registered in the Vertex registry. The next step is we need to create a Vertex endpoint. An endpoint is something like an API that it takes your requests, ships it to the model. The model will answer your request, and the request or whatever is generated will be sent back in a response. So if you want to create a new fresh endpoint, you can do this with a simple command here saying AI platform endpoint create. You only need to do this once. Once you have created an endpoint, you never have to do this again if you want to use the same endpoint for the same type of model. So for example, in my case at Digits, we create an endpoint for the very first time when we deploy a machine learning model. And then with every version we ship, let's say we do updates once a week, that model goes to the same endpoint. So now we have our model registered in the registry and we have an endpoint created. And there is a final third step, and that is we need to deploy our machine learning model. And that is also very straightforward. So in this particular case, our model registry says like, we have our Hugging Face from Gemini that is running on a certain container. We have an endpoint, and now here we say like, use this model from the model registry and deploy it at this given endpoint. And under the hood, use a particular machine type and a particular accelerator type and count as well. So for example, we run very large LLMs with multiple hundreds of parameters, hundreds, billions of parameters. So we need to combine a bunch of GPUs. So in this particular case, we can say like, I want an A100, but I need 8 of them at the same time, and they're all combined to the same instance. So with that, we basically have all the ingredients put together. We went through all the steps of like baking our endpoint here in our model, and this is basically all we need to do. But if you think this was too fast, no problem. We only had like 50 minutes here. So here is a little QR code. If you scan this, you will find a blog post with details about the instructions. But there could be, the question now is like, can we sprinkle something else on top just to make it really flavorful? So what can you do then with the recipe I just showed you here? And there's a bunch of things you can do. For example, if you handle private data, you can turn unstructured data into structured information. That's something what we do at Digits quite frequently. You can summarize client calls without sharing the client information with a third party. You can handle financial documents, and you can also assist users in writing customer emails without releasing the private information to third parties. So in conclusion, if I can summarize this here real quickly, so there's no complex scenario here. It's not utterly complex to host your own LLM. You can, when you host your own LLM, you can handle confidential information. And there's lots of ways you can host LLMs. You can use either Kubernetes or Google Vertex, and you can have lots of fun with your local deployments. With that, I think it's probably a really good time to take some questions.
Okay, great. Thank you, Anise, for the excellent talk. We have 1, 2, 3 questions. And should we just, if I share with you the link, would you be able to see it?
I can try, yeah.
Let me see.
Can you stop sharing here?
You can stop sharing this. You can share the or Pretty, can you share the questions, please?
I will. Yeah.
Thank you.
Is it like, are you comfortable reading this? Is it, or should I just zoom in a little?
Those?
Okay. Yeah.
That's a very how will you guys be covering the use of the fonts? I've noticed. Okay, so I think, Margaret, those are generic questions.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the first question, I don't think it's related to Hani's talk, and I am
Right.
not sure if we're covering that next session or maybe the fifth one, but we'll keep your question in mind. And the second question is not related to the talk, and honestly, I do not know how to answer that, or even for the future sessions. And then the third one question, in Chi's question, I think that's related to the talk, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
I can talk about talk to that. So there's that is true. Model providers change models under the hood. I think the lifetime of an OpenAI model is somewhere around 8 to 12 months before they deprecate them. I have seen this now for a number of companies where they used OpenAI or Gemini or other providers, especially for RAG systems. And those RAG systems are now in the process for more than a year, and they got the notification that like this embedding model, what they're using, is about to be deprecated. What that means is they basically have to re-index all the documents with a new model, what they have under the hood. This is obviously not a preferred way of doing machine learning. So if you want to avoid that behavior, the best option would be to host your own model, freeze them in such a way. And that way, what you can do, what a lot of people do behind the scenes, is they use maybe Gemini, track the data, and then test it against an OpenAI, like an open source model, and then switch over after like 6 months or something. And then that way you will have a frozen model. I'm not sure what the second question is. This is more like a statement.
Yeah.
Maybe you can.
Maybe we can move on to the next one, and I do feel that that's a proper product question, but yes, I would love to know.
I think the last one is for the how do you create it? You can use I'm not quite sure about the last question there, but you can use open source models in like Llama 3.2 or 3.3 for agent applications. That's something what we do internally and what we're testing right now. So they all support function calling. They support like all the LLM thoughts you need. Some of the open source models are not the best ones in terms of reasoning. You need a lot of weights for like a good agent behavior, but like a Llama 3.3 is like a really good use case.
I also want to add for that last question, in the Google AI Studio, and now I think the Gemini, the new Gemini are multimodal now, that you can take input other than text or images, and same thing for output, can be audio or video, and the input can be video as well. I think those are all the questions. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. No, we have more.
Okay. Uh. Hmm.
So I think what you can do in Vertex or in GCP regarding the last question, in GCP in general, you can set budgets and you can set pricing alert limits. So for all my private projects, I have like an alert setting. If I spend more than $10 or $50 a day, or if it's more than $100 a month, send me an email and remind me that I just overran my costs.
Yeah, that's to avoid you accidentally getting charged. Uh, I think that happened to me before and other people. They're definitely setting the alerts and the budget is a good way to go. Okay. All right. I think, I mean, people can keep adding more questions. We will have Q&A at the very end as well. Uh, so, but I think we can move on to the next talk now.
Perfect.
And please continue to answer your questions. We will answer them at the end. And thank you very much, Hanis, for your talk and thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Nice. Thank you, Hanis. Yes, let's move on to the next class, next topic. Sorry. Um, I would like to talk a little about Noreen. He is a lead consultant at Zebia. I hope I'm saying the name of the company right.
Surprisingly
Uh,
right.
Thank God. He is a developer turned into product manager, and he's passionate about open source AI. He creates impactful end user experiences, and he's super popular in our community, which is GDG City. So I welcome Noreen, and we would learn building agenting systems with PML and Gemma too. And I was also hoping to get the answer for that one AI tutoring agent from you as well, if that's okay.
Absolutely. I had a feeling you'd do that. You threw me under the bus like that. All right, let me
Yeah.
just quickly share my screen. And thanks so much for having me here. This is a sentiment I completely resonate. I think we need more communities for learning and building together. Um, so yeah, my name is Noreen. You can call me your tech bud. And Preeti, did you know? Uh, I actually was promoted to a principal consultant in June or July, and I just
Oh,
didn't know about it. I had no idea. That's how
oh,
dedicated I am to my job because AI has just taken over my mind at this point. I am founding a little community called Your Tech Bud Studio. You know what? I'm actually going to drop a link in the chat so you guys have it, where we do a lot of streams on YouTube to dive into topics like what Hanis, I hope I'm pronouncing your name right, Hanis, uh, like what he did, and we dive into it into 2 hour sessions. So you can join my streams. I've dropped a link to that playlist. And if you're a builder, we are forming a little community of around 100 people at this point, of a community for builders who are looking to build applications with AI agents, with machine learning, and all the other cool stuff. So if you consider yourself a builder, I would love to see you on my Discord. All right, awesome. So what are we gonna do today? We just have 15 minutes. We're short on time, so you definitely don't know want to know more about me. I'm not the highlight for today. Okay, we're gonna dive into AI agents. Um, okay. Now, since the time is a little bit tight, this is how we're gonna do it. All right, this is how we're gonna do it. I have been using, like, on my streams and even in the Discord, we have been experimenting with a lot of different agentic frameworks, right? The so-called open source agentic frameworks. We're talking Pydantic AI, LangGraph, even Crew AI, sure. And it's hard to compare these, and sometimes your frustrations start piling up. Like one agentic framework doesn't fit the bill completely, right? And what we eventually realized was that we need a basis to be able to compare these frameworks, so that maybe using an off the shelf framework is not the right answer for you. Like, it's not for me. Okay, it's not for me. So I came up with a little model. I'm not going to dive too much into it, But again, if you go to my playlist and you see the most recent video, we break this down completely. But the idea is, and somebody even spoke about an AI agent. I think the core idea of what we're going to talk about even today is that an agent is no fancy layer. Okay, it's something very straightforward. But at the core, you have something called a prompting layer. A prompting layer is essentially some function which talks to a model and is responsible to create something known as the system message and the user message and the assistant roles, whatever. The chat messages history, right? Which we all probably know by now. Uh, so we need somebody to template that out for us, right? In a good way, in a good experience. So this is the layer which is responsible to get natural language responses from your models. It's responsible to get structured responses from your models. By the way, tool calls and things like that. All of that is structured responses at the end of the day. No model actually calls a tool. It's just returning some structured response, basis which you call another function. So the prompting layer is only responsible to get responses from an LLM. And there's a reason I'm separating this out. And we'll focus on this today. This is the layer we're going to talk about today. What is an agent? An agent is essentially a reasoning loop. It's essentially a reasoning loop which is responsible for prepping up data. Like sometimes you need to give models some data to be able to take decisions, right? Like in RAG. In RAG, you're taking chunks and you're sending it to the model. Somebody needs to prep up those chunks and format it in the right way, right? Or retrieve those chunks from the database. That's logic. Somebody has to do that. Then maybe you get a response back from your model and it has some data validation issues, like it doesn't give you the right response, or it doesn't make sense from a business logic perspective, so you need to implement some retries, or maybe you want to implement some kind of a react loop or take decision based on uh, 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 an LLM's response. So the point is, all the business logic functionality, uh, like data prepping, validation, retries, actually calling those functions which the model says you need to call, all that is what I call the agentic layer. All right. Most frameworks which we see out there, like Pydantic AI and stuff, they usually operate on these two layers, right? When they say they're an agentic layer, under the hood, they're taking care of prompting. They're also taking care of calling those functions on your behalf. But it's not magic. Like I said, it's just prompting and then using the responses of those prompts or those LLM responses to implement some kind of a reasoning loop to get stuff done. That's essentially what it is. Now, my biggest complaint was that all of this is written in Python. I don't like Python. I don't need a reason to disown Python, but I really don't like Python, and I don't appreciate the fact that everything we do in the AI world or the agentic world needs to be Pythonic. The biggest reason, we use agents to build applications. I think even the one agentic question we saw, that's an application. And how do you build applications? Most of us use JavaScript. I mean, how many of us you actually use Python? So why do our agentic layers have to be in Python? Just for that reason alone, I went out to figure out a way on how you can build agents in other languages. And I came across this tool called BAML, which we are going to be talking about today. Uh, Now, one thing to remember is BAML is a prompting tool. It helps you create prompts. It still requires you to build the agents yourself. Now, we won't be able to go through all of this, and that's why I linked to my playlist in the chat. Make sure you go through it because I speak about all of this in a lot more detail. It's literally like a 2 hour, I think that's a 3 hour stream. It's a long stream, okay? Condensing it to 15 minutes is going to be just a tad bit hard, like a little bit, okay? Just a little bit. Okay, so let's look at BAMR just so that we know what the hell am I talking about, because I've been going on for ages. I might have to zoom this up a little bit, right? Let me take this. Is this big enough for you guys? Give me a one in chat. Give me a one in chat if this is big enough for you guys, just so that I get quick feedback. A one in
It
chat. Thank you so much.
looks good to me.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Margaret. Appreciate it. So, like I said, at the end of the day, guys, everything we do with models, like with LLMs, is just a prompt. And what is a prompt? Like if you look at the Gemini spec, the actual spec, like I think Hani just spoke about the endpoint, right? So in endpoint, what are you doing? You're just sending some JSON over HTTP. That JSON will contain something called a list of messages, which will have like a system prompt or user prompt and things like that, right? I'm really hoping we know that at this point, so I won't get too much into it. But oops, sorry, that's not what I want to do. So this is what BAML does. BAML is a custom language. It's not Python, it's not JavaScript. It's a custom language. It's BAML, uh, which you use to generate these prompt templates, right? For example, I want to make a QA bot, right? I want to make a simple QA bot which takes a message from the user. So we want to take a string message from the user. And I want a response back, which will also happen to be string. Sure, fine. And of course, because I love, oh my God, oh my God. I hope nobody. What? Wait, guys, this has to be fixed. Yeah. Thank God. Thank God. Okay. Pikachu. We have to spell it right. So I want to make sure that my QA bot always replies in the voice of Pikachu, because Pikachu is perhaps the best Pokemon. And I'm literally going through my entire Pokemon phase again. Yes, I'm going through all the 1,000 episodes again. I have a lot of spare time in my hands. Okay, so cool. Now I have a prompt, and it's gonna, I can give it a message. So this is my system prompt, and then anything under the user role is technically my user prompt. And of course, you can have your entire messages array here as well. So you could have a user prompt, assistant prompt, user prompt, assistant prompt. And this is a Ginger template, so you can do for loops and things like that. But the point here is I have a system prompt, I have a user prompt, and I can use my input and I can just shove it in my user prompt right there. This is a far better experience than something like, I don't know if I'm not sure if you guys know about Pydantic AI, but this is how Pydantic AI will make you do it. Like you have your user prompt here, your system prompt here, a little bit of the system prompt could be somewhere else, and then your user prompt comes in somewhere here. So the point is it's very disjoint. I mean, it's not a good prompting experience, right? And somebody even said, what if the model changes? And the model will change. Better models will keep coming, and you should definitely take leverage. So how do you know that even if the models are changing, you still want to make sure that things work? So you need test cases. So let's just have a look at this. Okay, I have a QA bot which can answer questions, and I've got two sample questions. What's the capital of France? I don't know why did I choose France. I just did for some reason. And Canada, because I'm in Canada right now. So yeah, now I need to try it out, right? Now normally we would have to run some Python code and stuff like that, but I don't want to step into my terminal and run functions and stuff like that to just test out prompts. That's not cool. So BAML gives us a little extension, which you see on the right. Now, what this is doing is for a given test case, which is Canada right here, right? You see a given test case, it's going to show me the generated system prompt and the user prompt right here. So as I make changes here, as I make changes to this piece of code, again, I need to make sure Pikachu is spelled right. Otherwise, all hell will break loose. It's going to show me those changes right up, straight up. You see, as I'm making changes here, it's going to show me those changes straight up, which is a good thing, right? And of course, if I choose my second test case, it's going to show me that as well. Now I can simply run all the test cases I want in one shot, or I can just run one at a time. And the beauty is that of course, I can run those test cases and make sure that it always works. And I can have assertions. I can do all that crazy stuff right there next to my prompt. So when you're writing prompt, it's a lot more than just making an LLM give you a response. You have to make sure it gives you the right response for the right test cases. You have to make sure it's a good experience. You need to make sure that, okay, when you're trying different prompt engineering techniques, which one works best for all your standard set of inputs. You cannot just work against one input and just call it a day, right? It has to work across different use cases. And this gives you such a good experience to make sure that it's always working. And of course, if you ask me that, okay, Naren, tell me more about which LLM is this going to? Are you using OpenAI? Are you using something else? Like, what are you doing? Sure, let's talk about that as well. So in BAML, you can configure different clients. For example, I self-host all my models. So thank you so much, Hanis, because that's kind of what I do. But I self-host all my models in my closet, which is behind that door you see right there. So yes, the model is running behind that door. It's a secret. Don't tell anyone. And you can define all your models. And like you see, I'm pulling my models to environment variables and things like that. And of course, I've configured my environment variable because since this is a Google event, we're using Gemma. Now, I've never used Gemma before this, but when I was testing things out, Gemma turned out to be really awesome. I think I'm going to use it more often now. It's a good model, guys. It's a good model. Sweet. So that's pretty much what BAML is. But the beauty of BAML comes in from structured responses. And this is probably the last thing I'll I'll talk about. So the beauty of BAML, like I said, is structured responses. So let me show you something. Sweet. Let's run France. Okay. My model sent me this response. So essentially what happened here is simply by replacing my return type from a string to a class, BAML went ahead and modified my system message because I injected this part. And it said that, okay, answer the following in JSON using this schema, which is not JSON schema, by the way. They've come up with their own way of doing schemas so that the model, so that you can do prompt compression. The prompt takes less tokens. Right. This is way better than tool calling. Like tool calling is verbose. So it's essentially saying that, hey, respond in this format. And this is my question. And now the model gives me a response. Now, for the keen observers, you'll notice this is not JSON. JSON needs double quotes. So most frameworks, most agentic frameworks would try retrying this because you want proper JSON response. You want double quotes and all that crazy stuff. But BAML is smart. So what BAML does is it extracts valid JSON and tries to coerce it into valid structures so that you get the right output straight up. So you really don't have to worry about whether the model is giving you the best answer or not. Even if it messes up in the syntax of JSON, it's still going to work, which is a big win because this means I can use tiny models like Gemma 2, 9 billion parameters, which is not a big model. It's really fast. It just works every single time. And even if the model messes up in JSON syntax, it's fine. And of course, you have all your test cases to make sure that it always works. Now, this is what BAML is at the end of the day. It's just a prompting tool, like I just said, right? You create functions, you write your prompts, you write your tests, and then you just run them and see your answer go crazy. The last thing I want to show you is how do you use them. So I have another function here, which I don't know, we shouldn't get into. But the point is this returns a structured response as well. This returns a structured response as well. Now, notice this is not Python code. This is TypeScript. This is, I don't know, maybe a part of my Next.js app. It doesn't really matter. What BAML lets me do is it lets me generate code so that I can get an output out, and it gives me these functions. So from the BAML client, let me just show it to you. All my generated code sits in my directory here. All of this is generated. We never meant to change anything there. And what I can do is whenever I get a response back, you see, it does autocomplete and all that cool stuff. So this response is a structured response of type intent. And type intent is essentially this interface, which means that I don't really need to worry about JSON parsing on any of that crap. All I can do is just, write response.action or whatever your structure was. If you had a complex structure, if you had arrays, it doesn't matter. You could just do response.whatever. And, cursor is even going wild and actually suggesting things for me. You can do whatever you want here. And that's the beauty. So your agent becomes simply a function. It's just a function which calls simple functions under the hood, which are talking to LLMs. And then you can take decisions or you can take action basis the response which that function gives you. Now, this is a very procedural way of programming. If you've written code, this is exactly how we write code, right? We call database functions, we get a response, then we take action based on that response. That is how LLM should be as well. And BAML creates a separation of concerns where you can create your prompt engineering experience in BAML using that amazing playground. And then once that's done, once you know that your prompts are going to work, you go back to your TypeScript code, you go back to your Python code. Please don't use Python. Okay, please don't use Python. It supports Python, but we're not going to use Python. You can use Python, Ruby, or whatever you want, and simply just call those functions and build your own agents the way you want to, just as you would do with a database or something of that sort. That's pretty much it. I think I went more than 15 minutes here, so I'm so sorry about that. But I think this is a solid building block on top of which you can build your agents. So like I said, BAML is not an agent tool. It's just a prompting tool. But you can build your own agents the way you want. Like in my case, my agent is just a function. And yes, you could make vision calls. You could do anything you want. Go crazy. In fact, if you want to know more about, how you can build agents using BAML, that's literally my next stream on Tuesday. So make sure you join my Discord server. I'll be posting updates to that right there. And don't worry, we'll get into it in a lot more detail and things like that. But that's pretty much it from my end. I know I rushed through a lot of things. So if you guys have questions, I'm gonna address them now. And no, Bay, this is not copyright infringement. Nintendo has allowed me to talk about Pokemon, okay? I'm kidding. It's Pokemon. Come on, we can do that. It's Pokemon. We love Pokemon. Sweet.
Thank you. Perfect. I did paste the link for Slido in chat. If anyone has any questions, please add it there, and we can share and we can talk about them.
Sure. Absolutely. Oh, one more thing. I self-host my models. I have a stream which I've attached in my playlist as well, which is building on top of what Hanish just said, because 15 minutes is a short time. So if you want to see a complete guide on what quantization is, what is OLAMA, what is VLLM, what's the difference, what are the things you should know about, you can check out one of my streams. I'm pretty sure I have a stream on just self-hosting.
Awesome. If you allow me, Lorraine, I would love to share the Q&A screen.
Please
Thank you. So I'll just go back to the first question first.
So,
That was already there. I would love to know your version as well of this.
So AI tutoring agent is a big word. So never use the word agent. When you're designing an application as an engineer, don't use the word agent because it distracts. When we think agent, we think of a magical entity which just works magically. It never works like that. In reality, agents are nothing but making LLM calls, getting responses, and doing something basis that responses. So how would an AI tutoring agent look like? Like the first part of it would be content creation, right? You would want to create content based on notes or something like that, right? So for example, I'm thinking like you creating a math tutor. So somebody would take a picture of their problem statements or of some theorem and upload it to the LLM, and then the LLM would explain it. How would that work, right? Think about it this way. First, you need the ability to upload a picture, which is pure Next.js or pure application concern. Nothing to do with agents, nothing to do with models. Just get an agent. Sorry, just get the image uploaded, which is base 64 encoded. I won't get into the details of that. Then you use a prompt which says that, okay, based on this image, tell me what this image is talking about. So you'll get a response back from the LLM, which is like a big string, which says that, okay, this is talking about math or this is talking about Pythagoras theorem, because why not? Then you could take that thing, you could take the first response, give it back to a text-based LLM. Like instead of a vision LLM, you could give it to a text-based LLM and says that, okay, for this content, create a study plan, create a 3-step study plan for a 5th grader or something like that, right? So you just took 2 prompts. The first prompt was to extract information from the image and convert it into text, which is using any image model or vision capable model. Then you take the response of the structure of the output of the text output and make a study plan based on that. So just a 2-prompt step. Now, of course, you could make it more complicated and say, okay, do verify it and make sure that it's right, fine, critique yourself, whatever. But the point is, you'll have to have a workflow in mind. Like, how do you solve this problem? Break it down into prompts, like different prompts you can give the LLM, and just stitch them together in a function. And that function as a whole is what we would call an agent. That's how I think of it. I hope I answered that question. But yeah, that's how I think of agents. That's just my opinion.
Definitely. I just focused on this one. Thank you so much for answering that, first of all. I also
Absolutely.
focus on this one because I was trying to create something exactly like this. And of course, more perspectives and directions can help.
Absolutely.
So yeah, so I was curious.
Breaking
Let
it
me
down
see.
into smaller tasks is the best way to do it. Like the first step, like I said, image to text, and then text to study plan, and then study plan to sample examples. Whatever. Make a workflow, and that's like the like one layer of orchestration in my model framework. You need to have a workflow and just call different agents or different prompts in that workflow. Pretty much it. Yeah.
Awesome, lovely. The second last, I leave it to you and Margaret and Hanis. If I'm using Google AI Studio, do I need to add a VLLM?
No, you don't. If you use Google AI Studio, Google will host the models for you. You can make those requests directly to like Gemini. You only need the LLM if you want to host your own LLM, like Llama or like Gemma, like open source models, if you want to host the open source models yourself.
Awesome. Thank you. Last question. Is it worth getting a master's in AI? What career paths can you get with an AI master's? I can talk about it from a student's perspective, or sorry, somebody who is new to the market and wants to get job in AI. But rest, I think Margaret, you would add. You're in the education industry. I believe if if I'm just looking at jobs in AI and ML industry, in that case, the basic checklist I see in most of the job postings is about us having a master's in I don't know master's in AI, but yes, master's in computer science. That's it, almost in every job posting. So it can definitely improve your chances, your resume's chances to be seen, I believe. But other than that, I believe in just learning and implementing. So other than that, I don't think there is a need to go with masters. Second advantage is that in that ecosystem of a good university or college, you get people who think like you and can help develop things. Also, other resources like amazing professors like Margaret, so they can help
Thank you.
with this skill building as well, which you sometimes lack. That ecosystem you sometimes lack when you're self-teaching. So that can be one thing if you want to do the masters. But other than this, if you're not really focused to just get the job in the industry and you just want to build something, like you want to start something of your own, I believe self-teaching is a way to go. But yes, I leave it for the experts to answer.
I want to add a few points to the career path question. Is that a lot of us, like myself included, we're pretty much self-taught because I got into AI machine learning since 2016. I was an Android engineer at Microsoft AI and research computer vision team. And, a lot of the MLGDs I know and also self-taught. We took classes from Udacity, Coursera, do a lot of open source projects, etc. There was no like formal education in university at that time yet. And now there are more, formal education. And also, I think AI and ML these days are very accessible to developers and non-developers, artists and designers, or you name it. So what kind of career path you can pursue, it all depends. Like the Gen AI path slide I show you, the Gen AI path on Google Cloud Skills Boost, you could be a developer, like Noreen was talking about. He's more of a developer, right? Using the AI tools to build applications. You could focusing on data, be a data analyst, be a data scientist. You could be a ML engineer, like Honey's had these books talking about ML ops, right? Even looking at all ops. You can go to research too if you want.
I think the world is changing slightly a little bit with the sort of like people start to figure out like what to do with machine learning, and I think I see two streams. Like there's this stream of people, like I think we can only succeed in this field if we like make the choice either we focus on developing applications, full stack applications with machine learning, or we go like really deep into like what are the next model architectures. And if you're interested in the later, I would heavily recommend a master's degree in the field because it gives you the foundation of like what has been researched in the past. You have to really study the literature, and that is a wonderful foundation to build the next the next future transformer models or architectures. If you're interested in the architecture, in the application side of things, totally agree with everything Margaret said. Like you can self teach yourself the aspects you need, and especially if you have domain knowledge, if you have like a degree in a different field, that is extremely valuable because now you understand like geography, for example, and then you can build very specific machine learning application for geography.
I also have something to share, just in case for people who want to be developing applications of sorts. I think originally AI, I think we already spoke about it, but originally AI was very research heavy or science heavy. But now with Gen AI, the balance is changing. I think a lot more people who definitely want to be using LLMs to build applications, you need the developer mindset. So being a developer first is like is going to help you the most. So if you had a choice between an AI master's versus, I don't know, a more generic computer science master's, and your goal is to build applications at the end of the day, I would definitely go towards computer science rather than AI, because developers have been evolving with time. As from SQL, we went to NoSQL, we came back to SQL, we evolved with it. And LLM is just another tool as developers for us to use. Think of it that way. But another very important point, which I think we need to bring up, is it's not just full stack development. I think that's a very narrow way of looking at development. There's data engineering, and the future of Gen AI is going to be very data engineering heavy. I'm talking about tools like Kafka, building ETL pipelines in Airflow. I don't know, whatever tools you use. That's an interesting area to be, especially till the point where huge contexts do not become more practical and affordable for real applications. Uh, a lot of data engineering is required for RAG and things like that. So that is one other area you can consider when it comes to building stuff. But like I said, I think most of your experience will come from a developer mindset or a data engineering mindset than an AI or a science mindset. But this is only when you're coming to build applications. Again, research is a completely different area. And if you're interested in that, you should definitely get a master's in science, especially related to machine learning.
Perfect. Thank you. Margaret, considering the time, do we want to continue with the next two questions or should we answer them on Discord?
I will answer it very quickly.
Mhm.
I think I don't quite understand why they keep coming up with VLM and Google AI Studio between the trade-off between the two. Oh, I see what you mean. Is that what Hanis was talking about earlier about deploying Gamma?
Yeah, he did mention that you can use
Oh,
VLLM, but he showed a
oh,
demo using Google Vertex or
I
AI Studio, one
see,
of them.
I see,
Yeah.
I see. Oh, okay, okay. I do not know what the trade-off is between the
I mean, I
two.
can answer that really quick. VLLM is a tool if you want to run your model on your machine. So you have your own VM, maybe on Google, maybe somewhere else. You have your own GPU and you want to run it yourself, which is expensive because you need a big machine and machines cost money. But the advantage is that you are running it yourself. So like it's serverless versus servers, right? In serverless you don't pay that much, but again it's not your infrastructure, it's somebody else's infrastructure. So maybe compliance or security mandates which might not allow you to do it. VLLM is for running AI on your server. Google AI Studio is for running AI on Google server, which you do not get direct access to. You cannot SSH into that machine. You're going to use Google's proprietary technology to run those models, and those are very optimized. So you're going to save a lot of money if you use Google AI Studio, but you might lose out on a little bit of control or a little bit of security if that's really a big concern for you. But it's not like it's public. It's not open AI. It's still under your own account. So it's not that insecure as you think. As people talk about OpenAI or DeepSeek, it's still under your account, so you have better guarantees. But yeah, it's not your infrastructure. That's pretty much the only difference.
Perfect. Next question, is data secure in Google AI Studio as it is in a VLM? Is that a debatable question?
I think we just spoke about it. It's
Yeah.
it's
Okay.
about It's like serverless and servers. Is serverless less secure than servers? Up to you to decide.
Perfect. Okay, we discussed that. Where to get slides from previous sessions? I'm going to paste the link
I
again.
just did. I just sent the link on the. You just go to the second event. You'll see the link. You'll see at scroll to the bottom. You'll see both the YouTube and the slides.
Next question, how do I increase Gemma's context window to be comparable to Gemini?
Can I take that one?
Yeah, please.
Don't do that. Don't do that. There is a technique called rope which can help you do that, but you shouldn't. I think there was a recent research which says needle in a haystack, which is the ability to find one pinpointed thing within a huge context window, is not an accurate benchmark for real applications, because needle in a haystack is trying to find one thing. But in real world, you're probably needing big context windows for RAG kind of applications, which doesn't require just one thing, it requires multiple things and reasoning across them. The more you increase your context window, the less your reasoning ability will be across multiple attention points. Uh, I don't know. I don't have a link to that research paper, but you can definitely find some explainer video on this on YouTube. So for open source models, that limit will, so your performance will start dying down beyond 16K or 32K tops, depending on how many parameter count the model has. For proprietary models like Gemini, yes, it goes in the hundreds of thousands range. So you definitely don't want to extend your context window for an open source model, which is, I think Gemma is just 27 billion. That's not huge. You shouldn't go beyond 32K context window, even if you can technically, you can hack it too, because you won't see real value. You'll miss context. You won't be able to reason well, and you won't get the benefits you really want. You might as well just stick to the proprietary model, which is Gemini. It's not worth it. Trust me, it's not worth it.
Thank you. Um, Thank you so much, Lauren, for answering that. With that, I think we'll stop with the questions for now. And if anybody has any more questions, please feel free to put them on Discord channel, and I'll reach out to Noreen and um, other members, Margaret, other experts, and we'll get your answers then. Okay. Just before everybody, just before we take to leave, I just want to mention that we are running machine learning paper reading club, machine learning paper writing club. If you're interested in any of these activities, please do join us, and you can find all the events listed here. There's a very interesting session that's quite new to us too. It's called GeoAI, Exploring Open Source Satellite Imagery with GenAI. If any one of you is interested, I really want to invite you actually to this session. I'm excited about it. And yes, I guess I'll see everybody in next session.
Okay, hold on. Okay. So here is how you can join the Discord server. If everybody can see. If you have any additional questions, please join the Discord server and post your question there. Make sure you have access to Cloud Skills Boost. And the way to check would be you go sign up an account and try to go to a lab and start a lab. See if you have the credit to run the lab. If you don't, if it asks you to like purchase a credit, that means you did not get access to the credits. And if that's the case, just post your question to Discord. And please continue to work on the third GenAI path and complete that and then get started on the fourth one. I just want to say a few words about the session 4. Although the session 4 for the GenAI Cloud Skills Boost path, it's focusing on data scientists and data analysts. However, for our talks next week, likely it's all focusing on AI agents. So we might have one talk on data and one talk on AI agents, or both talks are going to be focusing on AI agents. I think today Noreen talked about using BAM and as a tool, right? But there are other tools out there as well, like Crew AI, LandGraph. And when we talk about AI agents next week, we will be talking about the Google Cloud's offering for building AI agents.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. I did post the Discord. Can you please share the links to all the learning paths? I only find the first one. Thanks. Okay, I will do so.
Yeah, so we can just share the links right now, I guess. All the paths. Let me see if I can. If you go to the slides from the last week, you will have all the paths already, right? So let me just show you. I already gave you the link, but I'm gonna just show you again. Can you all can still see my screen, right?
Yep.
So this is the last session, session 2. And if you go to this session, you scroll down, you will see there's a YouTube video, and then there's also a slide, right? So if you go through the slides, the beginning is the same as today, and you will see the links here to 1, 2, 3, 4, all of them. But I will also copy and paste the links here. And Pretty, you can also copy paste and put it into
Yep, I already did actually.
Discord.
Yep.
Okay. Great. Thank you all for joining us.
Thank you.
And but before we hang up, I just want to say, if you do get an email to fill out a survey, give feedback about a session, please provide feedback for us to improve for future sessions.
That would be lovely. Thank you, everyone.
Great.
See you next week.
Yeah. Thank you.